and whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am. Hello there everyone, beloved Ascension pioneers and all you lovers of life out there. So I thought I was just about finished with my videos for a while, but then there is a recent unfolding of the flow of events that actually led me to a topic of what is so essential in our living, our multidimensional ascension right here and now, and so many key factors in this framework that I really was so called and guided to share it, like always, unconditionally, freely and openly, for all those of you who have been also sending me your feedbacks and some of the things really important to share how you've been developing and folding on your own beautiful evolutionary soul path, and also those of you who've been sending me your feedback for my Tantrika Life Force Mastery. Life Force Mastery, yes, this is an ongoing theme for so many of us, and this is where we are crucially now at this pivotal threshold. And I want to say that I've never received so many feedback on a course, and I've created many courses throughout several years as now, and this is truly a pivotal unfolding. And I haven't seen this as well, as well. There's a beautiful worm there because I've kind of like, revealed this thing there, a little like piece of the log, the wood, and there's a beautiful worm coming out, and I just looked, and this is such a really strong message because I don't usually like to move things too much in nature, because then you kind of you alter the habitat of the species that's there. So sometimes you pick up a rock, a huge rock or a huge piece of wood or something, and there's like this whole ecosystem in it, right? So this kind of like draw my focus, my attention there, and the worm came out. It's just a little movement, and this is the thing, this was a message. Sometimes there's this, we have to look, it's like this big piece is being, it's almost like unraveled, unveiled. It's like you can see this whole ecosystem, and you're like, oh, it's like underneath this pile. And what I want to talk about is several things today, and this worm is kind of like, he's digging into dirt, is a message that so many of us have been going so deep at this time. We've really been going to the roots, and sometimes I talk about these things with my mother, who is going very diligently with her ascension, and sometimes things pop up and I kind of like pull her and push her along the journey. I'm going to reveal some of the things that came out during a recent unfolding that are so important, because I've seen this greater vision of what this is about for all of us. So sometimes there will be those of you who will perceive that because there was this idea that we've gone so deep, there's so much under the dirt, that sometimes we had this feeling like ascension is hard and difficult, instead of ascension is normal and it's violent, it's organic, and it's who we already are. We are those of us who are volunteer souls. We've already came here as ascended, as fully ascended beings, but we had to take a certain evolutionary course of life to embody that ascension, and now we've crossed that threshold. We just have to be here as pillars of light. And there's this such a strong tendency for us to shift that and to no longer have this, well, I used so much of my life and so many years, and it was so trialing and it was so challenging, and for me to think of my enlightened ascension being and my higher dimensional existence here in this framework and my vessel and the physical, I would use much more, and the same evolutionary path I felt now as I've been taking these steps. I've talked to you about this for several times, several occasions before, that there's a certain thing we're doing underneath the surface, and sometimes then you just reveal that log, and like I said, there's a whole new life underneath it. You don't see it because it's hidden, and now this worm came out, and it's like there's life. You walk on these leaves that are like trees leftovers, right? They fall, they become new habitats, like ecosystems for the new habitats, right? And now I've lifted that off, some kind of like for mistake, but that gave me a message of what's happening. And it's like cyclical and it's spherical in a way, like I always talk about, that so many of you are now attuned to this greater pulse of light. You have opened up to this ascended, elevated, multidimensional consciousness, which was the idea, which was the template for the new ascended human, is to live as a fully multidimensionally operating being. And the thing is, it doesn't have to be anymore, okay, well, I have to go through the same pitfalls and so many challenges because I still have some of the things coming up for me and still some of the things that I feel I have to work on. And there's this idea that we're always needing to work on something that actually prevents us from living as a fully ascended being already. So that's the first thing I want to expose today, because it's so important. There's so much life we've already invested in, we've already planted, we've already seeded those things, and at a certain point you just lift it up and it's all there. It's all the abundance, it's all the connections we've made. I've made some beautiful soul connections during this journey, and I wouldn't imagine it possible. A few years back I felt so alone and isolated here. There was no one around, and I felt no one can understand the things and concepts that I see and I have insight into. And then I started in 2011 sharing this with Ascension Pioneers updates, and in the beginning it was still kind of down low. But then, you know, people were just curious and tuning in, and then more and more there was people who actually understood these concepts and started embodying them themselves, or they were volunteer souls coming really strongly, and they said like, okay, this was almost like a direct mirror experience of mine, only like different country, different region, different living circumstances, but same essence, you know. So the missions that we have, these tasks we perceive, they're, of course, they're variables of the things we have agreed upon to work with as an evolutionary state where we are now in. But the heart that connects us is so important. So that's the first thing I want to mention today. It's, you've been building, you've been planting for this. And I love what the Galactics have been saying. I've recently heard this update, and they said so many of you are focusing on your personal ascension, and you came here as volunteer souls, as already fully ascended, and you came here to assist others in their ascension. And we would recognize ourselves as such because we've always had this devotion to serve and produce these acts of divine servitude to all life, where life is expanding on a new level. And that also means overriding many concepts that are just old and no longer work, these linear frameworks of even esoterics. You know, I have to tell you this beautiful story. I met this friend here, and I don't usually meet friends physically here per location, on the spot. But I shared this update with you in my New Earth versus Old Earth video that was exactly on Gaia's Earth Day, and the name of the person was Gaia as well. So that was quite an amazing experience, and I forgot to share it with you later on what it was actually about. So I met this person. It was a complete random surprise that day, and she later told me, that beautiful woman, she said, well, that day I just had to rush. I had to go there. I had to go on my weekend house. You know, that's where we met, at their location spot. She said, I was so driven. something was pulling me, and I didn't even stop to, you know, go to the restroom. And if that was only 5 minutes later, I would no longer probably be there. I would just record my video and go off, because I wasn't intending on staying there and inviting myself. It was just to record a video, and that was it. But we met, and when we met, I had this amazing experience, because I'm usually not so quickly welcomed by someone in the physical in that way. Usually people find you online and they fully resonate, or they're like, oh my God, you know, the things you're saying, what you're talking about, it's like complete acceptance, right? And there's this soul recognition. But I've had not many of these experiences in the physical. People are usually like a little curious and interested, but they're kind of repelled by too much energy, or, you know, things like that. So I met this person, and we just spent the whole day together, and with my mother, and we had some of the beautiful talks and engaged in an amazing conversation. And later on, she's been saying things to me and how she perceives me. And she said, do you know that you're an extremely beautiful woman? I'm like, no. I mean, I don't see myself the way probably other people see me, right? And this is sometimes the element of the surprise, because, you know, I was thinking that the first connection we have with ourselves that's physical is the mirror, because otherwise you never fully see yourself, and the mirror is already a projection, right? So you never fully see yourself, as in that, which is always a little bit of mask and illusion. So sometimes we meet these mirrors to show us how we are, who we are, the vibration. Might be surprised how we look onto others. And I had many responses from people to tell me about things that I wouldn't even acknowledge sometimes myself. I feel myself, I know my soul, I feel the essence, but I'm not always fully in the perception of this, how it appears perhaps physically, because my first relation in that way with myself is the mirror, and the mirror is already masked, it's already false, right? It's distorted. So she said to me, well, you don't look the same in your picture. She was looking at my picture, and she said, you don't look the same way. I mean, not that you're not beautiful. She said, but you are different in person. You are like, wow. I'm like, no. I was laughing, you know. And she said, well, you have this grace about you, you have this something. And then we were just talking about random things, and I was saying certain things, and later on we chatted a bit, and everything I said, she said, well, the things you say, the way you say them, I feel them, because I never resonate with the esoteric people, she said, because they're too up there somewhere, and you're so beautifully grounded in what you say, and it's this ancient wisdom, and it's so embodied. She said, that's why I feel you. Everything you say, I just feel it. And she said, it moves me. And then she started drawing me, made this sketch. She's like, wow, I was moved, you know, we kind of moved each other. It was a beautiful, friendly connection. And I was surprised that in the physical, because usually you meet people who they're kind of curious, but then they always have their own personal reaction to you. People very rarely react to you indirect, you know, in this direct expression, not indirectly through filters. It was so magic. It was really fantastic. And she gave me with that this gift of this observation that was a reflection coming through, and how we perceive perhaps by people who are very wise souls, old souls, but maybe not always so fashioned through the logic of the esoterics and these things and teachings, but what we say naturally through our core heart resonance just resonates with them and invokes their wisdom, invokes their passions and their understanding. So this is the second thing I wanted to talk about. This natural engaging, this organic engagement with the world is going to become so important, so pivotally important for so many of you who are here to not just associate with those brothers, sisters, you know, starship, blah, blah, homeworld, people I resonate with, soul family. We already have and know that. It's familiar, it's known. Perhaps on Earth, we didn't always have a direct physical expression of that, but we've experienced it, many numerous worlds. We've come so far, we've explored the whole universe. There's many of us who've been here, done that. It feels like ancient. But what we're here to do now is find the newness, this novice experience that is still new to us. But from this experience that we're not doing it for the self this time, that we are in a way doing it for the planet, and that we are with the planet doing this, and with the humanity who's sometimes stubborn to shift. Because there's so many life forms now on this planet that are fully ready and operational for this shift, but in the human template, that's not always the case. But we have this tremendous effect when we're natural in ourselves. We don't fear to say the things we say, because we're always going to be naturally guided what to say, how to communicate. You know, sometimes people, I've heard this word so many times for so many people. They always tell me, you speak with such eloquence. And at first I didn't even know this word, you know, English is not my native language, and a lot of it I learned through watching movies, and I just was assimilating it. It was familiar, like been there, done that. I didn't have to be physically, but you know, a lot of us have these amazing databases. It's not just starship projection, it's not just homeworld relation, but we have this assimilation of knowledge that's not just based on lifetimes on Earth. And we had to make peace with that. You know, a lot of times we try to understand why do I know this, how do I know these things, but now we just have to make peace with it and just do our service, which is this devotional work, and it has to be organic and flow. So this is the final thing I want to talk about today, and then we're going to give you a little bit of the examples I've mentioned to you through our own living reality here. The importance now is to shift from this I, me, my ascension, doing this for me. Yes, of course, every day you wake up, you do the things for you. But the multidimensional awareness that so many of you are now ready, and I mean it, fully ready to live in. Like I said in the previous Ascension update, it's not fully operational in terms of you are flying, you're bilocating, you're, I don't know, doing the things that perhaps you noticed in Star Trek. And by the way, we finished all the old movies Star Trek from, I don't know, from years, what was it? The first movie was 79 and 1990, I don't know, 5 something? I don't know. Maybe we're going to watch the series now. I don't know, but I wanted to say that I really, really loved the movies. I highly recommend them to all of you. But all these things, right, they're not fully operational yet, but the awareness, the perception is expanded to all these probable, possible, parallel realities, timelines, and it's there. And we don't have to anymore have that mind which was so much in the background all the time that says, why? But why is this so? But how do I know it? How did this? Like, a lot of people who are volunteer souls and a lot of people who write to me ask me, well, I don't understand, why is this so? And it's just this little human mind that tries to have a background story on everything. It tries to reason with everything, and now we're ready to let that go so that life can naturally unfold through us. And when we're going to have that natural about feeling about ourselves, it's going to be people who find us, who need to find us, people that are ready to also become the ascending ones themselves. And perhaps they have a more earthly related, they're not multidimensionally open yet to that reality, but they are there where they are connected in the heart, that they're slowly, gradually opening up to be able to receive higher and higher transmissions of light, because our planet and this ecosystem of the planet, everything working in unison, is receiving not just more light, but like the galactics say, more higher frequency light. That's the focus. And when you're receiving it, you had to become this stable station. Now it's going to be how stable you are in transmitting that for others. So what we're doing now is this shift from, and a lot of us have been doing this service since the beginning. I have been doing it since the beginning, but there's more and more people in the awakening groups, and I don't even want to say groups because it's all just one group for me. There's many groups that are focused on sharing information, but for me there's just this group that's one unifying group, which is the group, the collective of the ascended ones and the ascending ones that are working together in unison. So the shift from me, myself, and I into the we reality is something that's naturally taking place. And this is always has been service, selfless service, devoted and oriented. And I want to give you my own example, our own example of the recent events, how this came to be. And then I'm going to give you one last topic, which is about how to create within this multidimensional reality. I hope I don't forget. Okay, so the example was that, as you know, me and my mother, we have had this constant exchange of information and resonance of learning from each other throughout our whole life. Not always people understood our relationship because they saw it in the physical sense, like 3D, okay, mother, daughter, huh, why is the child with the mother, things like that, just concepts. But we've been on this soul contract journey for so long because she has been the ascending one and I was the ascended one, and I was assisting her from that template because she also was remembering so much about her and her own ancient roots and her own galactic roots. But as a human, she needed to implement much of the things that for me were very natural already. But at the same time, I learned so much from her about life and unconditional love, and it was such an amazing support. So what she was helping me to integrate, I also in a way was helping her to integrate. Just it was this flow. So throughout the years, there was so many moments in our journey when I felt we're sitting there in a conversation and I'm bringing so much of this to her, and I was sitting and channeling and, you know, giving this knowledge for her, and she was listening like a little student sometimes. It was funny. And this recent event, something happened. What triggered me was because she just walked through the street just totally in her own reality, right? She was just doing something with her hiking poles, not even looking, and she's like, okay, just look once, I'm safe, there's no one there. But we have this tremendous amount of bikers here, and you know, one can just come and just rushing in, and I come and I pull her and I'm like, come on, what are you doing there in the middle of the road, acting like you have all day to cross it? Don't be like that. And I just got so scared in the moment about her and her behavior. I was like, what are you doing, you know? But what this came to be was, this was for us, it's always an event is a trigger point. And remember, events, physical happenings, but it's usually with your soul companions, or the people close to you, the people who are part of this group that is the aware ones. You know, sometimes you can get triggered through the collective energies, but this is more dealing with you, you know, you relating to those collective implants and imprints and purifying them as a mission of the volunteer soul. That is different. That is what we're learning in these cases, in these unfoldings, is what we're learning within the group. And this is one group. This is the we I'm talking about in this video. Please pay attention, because what was revealed was so amazing, okay? So we have to come into terms that we are not looking at for other beings, or, you know, star beings, ETs, angelics, none of that as outside anymore. We have multidimensionally fully activated being, of galactic consciousness is fully aware that these are all aspects of our self. And you no longer feel as any of them, like really any of them, like they're coming outside of you. That's not yet fully operational multidimensional consciousness, because then you're never able to perceive yourself as in that higher vibratory state, in that light transcendent beingness. So when we have these storylines and these unfoldings, these will become triggers as catalysts for our growth within that we, within that expanded, okay, who are you in relation to me? What are we as humans to each other? What are we as souls? And how do we add up into bigger level? Okay, are we soul families? What are we? You know, what's beneath that? Is it all within one oversoul? What's the higher self? Things like that. But when we do these things, when we connect beyond that, right? Just soul families, things like that. But in more galactic consciousness expanded self, these aspects, they're all aspects of us. It's no longer just about soul evolution within a certain soul group and framework. That's, again, old. Of course, souls evolve on a certain level. That's what they're going to be going through. But this multidimensional, operational, fully multidimensionally ascended reality becomes a part of a bigger, much wider, expanded awareness. And this awareness, we're all a part of this we. And as this event triggered us, and I was sitting there, we sat on the bench, and I was guided to translate some of the things to Mom. I just had to. I realized that every single time in our life when we sat down, or perhaps I was angry, or I was expressing something, I was actually just a channel. I was a vessel. And what came through as I was speaking those words, I said, who's actually addressing you? Who's speaking to? And she's looking at me. I said, I didn't even say it, like me, my personality. I felt like I'm no longer, I couldn't even feel things like when you're in this we consciousness, it's just like consciousness speaking to you as an aspect of consciousness. That's how it feels like. It's again one of those convoluted universe things, but when you're in this multidimensionally operational awareness, you don't perceive it so much as convoluted, you just perceive it as fact. We're always in this higher space. It's just depending on which wavelength we're currently tuning into. So the more we expand in this galactic consciousness, the more we tune into those bandwidths, and we relate within those frameworks, and we channel to each other through that higher consciousness. So as I was saying these things, usually when something happens, you know, my mom would like put her eyes down, and I say, don't do that. And it's because the eye, when you stay focused eye to eye, you perceive soul to soul. And in the end, not even that, it's just transmission. It's just pure transmission. Because when you relate what's coming through another person, you're still going to take it personally, at least a little bit of that aspect. And something through me was just saying to her, do you imagine how loved and how vast you are? So that the aspect that's your higher self, that's our higher self, speaks to you through so many different facets of life and different beings, and always finds a way to commune with you, even perhaps when you're stubborn and not wanting to engage with it or look at it or perceive yourself as so great and vast. There's a lot of people who perceive themselves as a soul, but they're not yet multidimensionally expanded yet. They still think that soul is kind of this linear trajectory, lifetimes, growing, lessons, still old. Not old, yes, old in a way that you've transcended this when you come into this multidimensional, fully operational, fully all these galactic aspects of you, and we address each other through as those aspects. So when I was saying this for the first time in our life, in our communication methods, I felt like it's not me speaking to her and I'm giving her bits and pieces of my knowledge, of my wisdom. It was like, it was all it was like this database. And what this aspect said was, do you realize that this person, which was me, of course, Polona, would, of course, right now through their egoic, personalized expression, through their, you know, it's like their individual aspect of them, which is rather now continue to hike the mountain valley, but they're now talking here to you because this is more important. You realize how important you are, and you realize how we are all one and connected, and these things, when they happen, they're part of the we. And this is this higher multidimensionally operational consciousness. And I had this like almost like scan through all the events. Every single time we've ever sat together was all, we were in we. Because up until the time when I still had that linear, still a little bit of that linear left, I felt I'm giving this knowledge, I'm helping my mother, I'm assisting her mother, my mother. At this time it felt different. This is the shift I've been talking about in my latest Ascension update and the Galactic Consciousness, and in the brain, the shift. Please watch those videos if you haven't already. So this was the living reality, and I always do that. I get a message, I don't even get messages, I get concepts. And just recently I read in Dolores' books about how she received, when she was doing her hypnotic regression, she also had her own downloads, and she got a concept, but then she had to break it down into bits and pieces so they could become words and sentences and phrases that people can then relate to and read and absorb, right, in their own way, in their own intimate way, as to how we of course relate to source. So I had this today, wow, of course, we receive concepts, and then usually I share these concepts, but then an integration comes. And for me, these events that are catalytic trigger points are these points of not just self-realization, but it's self-actualization through that. And self-actualization, I'm sorry, 3 times the charm, is not that aspect when you become so obsessed with yourself that you are so entrenched in so deeply in yourself that, oh, I'm gonna I'm gonna be this master and do that and have these capabilities. Again, you're not in we. So if I progress, do I progress for myself to be in a disadvantage mode, for someone else to be in a disadvantage mode? That's still duality, and that's still a framework of something, the power overriding the power of something else. This is the synergistic, synchronistic unification that comes from the collective group, and I always call this the Great White Brotherhood. Watch my videos on that topic. And I have a beautiful, 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 I think a lot of people are ready now, not in the beginning so much, but I think now a lot of people are ready, and it's a part of my mastery courses, and it's called the Group Soul Consciousness and the Enlightened Partnership. And this gave that concept and a little bit of the overlay of what many of us are now fully functionally experiencing. The gifts, the attunements, they're not all like, because this is not what we need. We're always going to get what we need. If there is no advantage for you to teleport or something, you don't need it, or you just become this excess energy, or people see it, or like, what's happening here, and people just get confused. You're not going to do that. It's not in divine service. Divine service is you're tuned to all the gifts, everything that has a specific reason within the greater we, for the greater collective, that serves as an evolutionary soul improvement. Not something that will cause greater chaos or my power over your power. I want to be this great being and worship that. I want to have these powers because that's what Ascension means. No. So this we means that the concept of we was, if I in that moment were so wanting to go, I want to hike, but there's this situation with mom and she's in distress because she had to witness an aspect of her that came out when she's not fully in this expanded consciousness, because the issue was that sometimes when we get so much into this self and our reality, which is beautiful, we need that, but we're not just existing in this little bubble. We're a part of different bubbles and streams of consciousness and other beings, and we have to be so grounded, deeply rooted in our consciousness, in our own reality and what we create. But the multidimensional reality is also being fully alert and aware of all the other coexisting realities. Like I said, it's not just these past lifetimes. No, it's parallel, possible realities. And what did I say? Possible, parallel, and I don't know, higher. I just had said the 3 words in the beginning. Rewatch that. Sorry, sometimes I have a lapsus. I want to say too many things at once. But there was this witnessing, right, of this aspect that still needed a broader expansion. And at that time, it was more serving for the we, for us to have that conversation and to have that channeling session, then, oh, no, but I don't want to sit there and do this again. Oh, please, no, not another talk here. I want to go and I want to walk in the mountain. You see, I want to give you examples, great examples from our own personal life, because I don't believe our personal lives are meant to be worshipped in a way. They are sacred, of course. The experience is intimate and is just for us in that moment. But what is us? Us, right? Us, we. That's the thing, is shifting to greater soul group consciousness, is seeing the collective and the beneficial influences we have on each other. That's the true ascension, and that's what I wanted to initiate in the first part of the video. Slowly move towards here, how we are influencing the whole. And it's not just the people you think they're near and dear to you, it's the whole, like the great masters have been saying, God, the divine, please give me strength and power and the truth for me to not just operate within my familiar aspects and within my family region, to expand my divine service to all, and all the needy and all who come for assistance and all who ask for it. So the thing is, that during that moment we sat in the bench, things were just coming through, and it was the first time I really felt we're not doing this as me doing it for her, for me assisting her. You know, it's not like I ever had this feeling, but it was different. I could not even explain it with words. It was very much vast how we are doing it for the whole. So if one has the capability to shift in something, there will be energy moving in that direction. That energy comes from the we. A lot of times people say, you're such a great person, you're doing this for them. That's still ego. When you become depersonalized in that way, you just see yourself as love. Love will go to whatever stream of life form or a life form service and assistance and service where it will be guided to go in that moment. And I always tell you, the divine light of or universal life force of all life in creation goes to its highest, most optimum potential at that time. And when it's that potential fully realized, you won't be able to go in another direction, because that is the highest potentiality at that time, and that's multidimensional awareness. Although a parallel me could be like, oh, I went just hiking, I'd probably go. Probably I went off to explore a part of my consciousness, because we're multidimensional, you see? And I was already there. But there was an aspect as a pillar, as a service to the whole, to the group consciousness of the we, that stayed there and had this channel transmission, which produced this beautiful revelation of what does it truly mean to be in this multidimensional we. Part of me is already hiking there, a part of me is there, part of me has never left my home anyway, and a part of me is there. My deeply rooted aspect is serving our ascension. It's our ascension again. For many of you, this is still perhaps a little bit of, what? Cuckoo? And there's a lot of you now who are even writing to me who are getting all this and who are experiencing all of this, and that's very beautiful. So what also came through as this example of what this was, the cause that initiated this, with this expanded consciousness, right? When we are in this transition period, where of course a lot of you are now, and it's vulnerable. In every transition, we are more vulnerable than before. We are, I mean, I can't even go to stores and things like that right now. I get agitated. It's such a deep transition state, and the body feels so many upgrades coming. And at that time, you know, I have these moments when I'm like, I just want to go for a run, and my body's like, no. I'm like, no, why can't I go? And it's like I could have an argument, right? And like I said, you have to become aware that there's an aspect of you, it's already running, it's already doing that. Why don't we understand that the physical aspect of us in the moment, in the presence, is the absorption of all of these aspects of us. So we don't have to have the struggle, this or that, being pulled here, being pulled there. Should I do this? I'm doing this. No, they're doing this. This is still that duality framework. When you really, really shift into unity, multidimensionality naturally comes, because it's a part of it. There is no one without the other. It's like one and the same. We can say, wow, we're all one, we're all one. Yes, but are we having a little experience of that oneness? So when we had that experience, it was so important, because it showed us how much grounded we had to be in this newfound self-realization that a lot of us is currently going through. And I felt like so many of us, like my mother is such a beautiful, beautiful spirit, and at times she can feel like a little deer, so vulnerable, and she's in this environment. I'm like, whoa, my gosh, like, you know, I felt like at times she had to be protected, and I did. And at those times when I acted like this. But there are certain times, like I said, when you just have to pull the plug, if that's no longer serving, right? So I gave you in the last example, this metaphor that the Galactics use with the cast that needs to come off your hand because it's already healed. Otherwise, it's just, you know, not keeping it in a very well condition, because it's not giving it the time to heal and strengthen itself now when it no longer needs the cast. So this is how it felt, that there needs to be strengthening into this outer reality. And if you can be a channel for someone, because it's from the whole, it comes from the we, but don't do it from the point of yourself, your personalized self, which is, I'm helping them, I'm doing this for them, you know, I'm protecting them, I'm responsible for them. This is still duality, because you cannot yet perceive the connection that comes from the greater self. And at that moment, I was fully engaged with this non-emotional aspect, and I was shown, and it spoke through me, like the higher self of who we are is not emotionally attached. So sometimes these words that come through are very straight, very direct, but they're not angry, they're not hurtful, they're not in any way volatile, But the thing is, if you still have those self-judgments, which comes from your lower self-separation instinct, which is very instinctual because it relates to the past and your past experiences, that aspect might be like, oh, that's what it means. Oh, it's so neutral. Oh, it's why does it feel compassion for me? Why doesn't it feel this? It's us. It's the human self. It's the part of human reality, the human life that needs to develop this compassion. And we expect it from this higher, greater self, God. This God aspect is a totality of everything, of all. It's so vast you cannot perceive. The most personalized and intimate aspect of Source is what I was reading a lot from Paramahansa Yogananda, is the great Divine Mother, which is in every part of creation and in nature, everywhere. And this is the part of Source we can see and literally feel and have our own intimate experience with. But there's a cosmic component to the Divine Father, which is the unseen and the unrelating. And that aspect, which would be the I Am presence, is just this pure light, just this pure consciousness that it doesn't even, the consciousness itself is all that is. But you want compassion from that consciousness. And that consciousness is already you. You see it in the last Ascension update we talked about, not being from Source, but being of Source, being Source itself. And this is the moment when you start relating with this allness within you, no longer just having a relationship with yourself or with another, but you belong to this greater, vaster self, and through each other you are connected to the same force of life, of Source. And it's not for this cause or for that reason, it's just is. And whatever comes through, it's because life force moves towards its highest expression. It's because of the we. It's because of the unity paradigm. It's because of the multidimensional perception and awareness. And so when we're in this vulnerable state, I mentioned to you, we can feel sometimes like, oh, it's so good to be in our little bubble, in our reality. And for the time being, we'll have to be, because we're more vulnerable and we feel more exposed at that time, because we're being bombarded with all of that, and we need to integrate it. We need time. But when we're integrated, you're going to see, you're going to be outstretched again. Your auric field will expand outwardly again. You're going to have this newfound sense of the applicable multidimensionality, which is moving away from that stranger in a strange foreign land. How do I relate to people? It's weird. I cannot. And then people fall into this not belonging. I want to go away. I don't want to go home. That's escapism. That's not ascension. Because true ascension is this joy of all ascended aspects of you already being here, residing fully within you. And you don't seek for something outside of you, so you don't want to escape anywhere. But in these vulnerable times, you might feel tendencies like, oh, where am I? What is this void? What is this space, right? And many people feel it. It's where we are now. It's kind of like that birthing canal before a new paradigm within us is fully birthed and becomes a physical muscle strengthened within our own application of that newfound awareness. So at those times, just be really gentle with yourself, but also learn that you're going to have to expand, which is this expanded consciousness, not just your little bubble that exists, but interlocks and intersects with many different bubbles. And again, this leads me to this last part of the video. This in no way means now you have to engage personally and intimately with every aspect there is, and with every density and every layer. No, you still get to be selective. That's the selective unity, which means you as a physical being, you still have your body that needs preservance and nurture and understanding, and that's where the self-compassion and self-love come from. It's you taking care of you and knowing how to do that in the most ultimate sense, which means you're not going to go somewhere and create a reality for yourself that in a way you know it's bad for you. And I have another example for you, which was just in alignment with this experience, because just before this event, we went to the store here in the middle of our alpine village, and this store for me is like whenever we go, they have nothing for us. You totally overpay everything just because it's in the Alps. There's always the weird portal of the weirdest energies there, such dense energies, and I felt like, don't go there. And I said, okay, but we need this and that, and we went anyway. And then we had that mountain walk right in the valley after that, and I had this strong epiphany of us being fully conscious, multidimensionally operational, fully aware, self-creator beings. We choose. Again, we choose. And that reality, the bubble, of course you're going to exist, and you're going to walk across the road. You're going to have to, watch out for the motorbikes, whatever. You're going to be observant. You're going to have that expanded consciousness, which will intuit everything you need, and that's greater self-protection is this multidimensional awareness. It's not that linear perception, know. That is your natural greatest protection ever. And I've spoken about that since the beginning of my videos, that your integrated self-awareness is your biggest protection, and your expansion in it there is, you know, that's the ultimate. So, but still, that doesn't mean now we have to engage with every single aspect of life. If that life kind of would sometimes harm us, and these energies would kind of, you know, we suck in so much of these energies, we have to be discerning. That's another thing. That's not that false unity when you're like, oh, I just want to hug everyone, and you go across the street and there's people who are not yet ready for such a high voltage of energy. And you have to do it per distance, and you have to put that light of yours into the collective stream of light, and it will reach whoever is ready to receive that. That's the thing. That's the main thing of the ultimate love in the unity that is grounded unity. So that means if I'm fully self-responsible and aware, I will create the kind of reality that honors where my vibration is, where my vibrational experience is, whilst being of service, not separating the two, you see? So if I have that separation placed within me, I feel, oh, but I have to go to these dense places to shed light there. If you're guided, then by all means, but you're not always going to be guided if that in a way would lower your frequency so much so you wouldn't be of the service to the greater collective we. So you feel you have to go there for a few people, or you have to meet, sometimes people do that, meet a few people because they say, oh, they're receiving so much from me, because that's the individual service. That's not yet the we, the group, the collective service, the selfless service to all life through Life Force. And take my Tantrika Life Force Mastery, because it teaches these things. And the ultimate self-responsible, self-creator, self-master of the Life Force within you. And then these people would say, well, then why do I hang out with these people or these dense aspects, and why do I still support them in my life? These are some vital questions to ask. And just recently someone asked me this question: why am I having this high intolerance with people who are smoking, drinking that? And I said, well, ask yourself the question, it's not about them, but why are they still in your life? Why do you feel the need you have to be there with them? What inside of you still wants to keep that vibration as a part of your intimate life? So we still have a personalized life. We still have an intimate life. We still have, you know, you wouldn't invite everyone into your house and your home, right? And you wouldn't go into every kind of store. You're not going to go into a rifle store with guns or things like that, or the meat eating shop, whatever. We have to be choosy with those things. And when I went to that store, just because I thought, but we need something, and there was nothing there. But it was a nice lesson for me of this fully operational self-awareness consciousness, which I am the conscious creator. So if that was a repetition all the time, never nothing for me, always overpaid, always birth energies, well, then don't go there anymore. Hello. It was like a nice lesson. And I was like, then I choose the things that really resonate to support my highest frequency. So that frequency can go out in greater expanded ways. If it gets too intermingled with these lower things, and sometimes you get distracted by that, we all get these pools of the lower density, then find yourself with this awareness, observe it, and say, oh, why am I doing it? Is because I simply am used to it? It just allowed that space of awareness to show itself to you. And I made this choice, like, I'm always going to go to the good store, even if that's in Italy. I don't care. I'm worth that drive, and I'm going to go and get the good stuff and be in that beautiful energy that I always feel when I'm there. So choose through that vibrational attunement and alignment, because that is your selective unity, which is grounded unity. Okay. So you can do any kind of exercise, be in your bubble, but then fully ground your life, because grounding and anchoring your light will make you make the grounded choices that you need as a part of this earth ecosystem and this earthly environment that perhaps isn't always in full resonance with where you are vibrationally. But when you ground and anchor your light, it's being with the Gaia's highest frequency that shows you where you need to be and what will serve you instead of what will be a disservice to you. And then, of course, because you are a part of the we, will be a disservice to others as well. Simple as that. It is. But use your personal life in these examples, and why I share mine, not just concepts as many teachers do, is because I'm the living embodiment, and the examples speak on their own, and my life speaks on its own. So I don't have any shame, or, you know, even my mother's like, can I mention our example? She's like, use me for whatever means you want, because we're not taking ourselves as, oh, but it's ours, you know, we're holding on to it like little goblins, right? It's my precious. I want to do the my precious trick, but I don't have the right ring. So yeah, that's very, very important. And when you make those choices, just feel what is in alignment with you. And just recently I heard this great example with the from the Galactics, from the Arcturians, that we can, anytime when we feel this, or in general use this exercise when we feel, and I love this, I love doing this exercise. You can see like a doorway and ask what within you, what within your reality is now ready to leave. And it might not be something big like, oh, I have to, you know, no longer do this project. It can be a tiny thing, like no longer going to that grocery store, for example. But it's a tiny thing that in a way, because it's such a crucial part of your day-to-day life, vitally affects you. And it is important. And then in this exercise, you watch that leaving you. Just let it go through that door. And when you're done, when you see that in imaging or whatever you feel in your heart, some people are more visual, some people will feel it, doesn't matter. Some people will just know, like I'm a knower. And then in the other sequence, then you see another door that's opening. It's like fully inviting, and you just feel pulled to go there. And you feel, what is new that's still beginning for me? What is new? What am I initiating? What am I now ready for in this new now? And then take a while to move through that door, to be shown what you need to be shown, to see what you need to see in this moment, and just then make this a fusion. Leaving, coming, energy in, energy out, same thing. Out, in, doesn't matter, it's all unity. I hope this helped you in any way. I made it a little long again. I wanted to make it a random conversation, but recently so much is coming through because there's great shifts within us, so that I don't want to shorten things just because I don't have enough time, or you know me. I just like to make it as substantial as I can. I want to get as many things in this video. Perhaps it serves different people on different levels, but I think whatever always wants to come through is for the group. And I've always been sharing this message through our I don't know how to say, but the greater self collective that I know in my heart is this greater galactic self of mine, of ours. It's been always telling me what you share is for the group. And that's why I always have the same responses for people who will tell me, I received this from you in divine timing. How did you know this? How did you write this? It's like, I don't know. If I have to tell you as a person, I don't know. Because it comes from greater aspects of us that are already fully unified and ascended. And it's just, like I said, we're ascending the human aspect. We're bringing this beautiful new aspect of creation forward, this beautifully ascended new human, the Homo Luminous. And we have this great love for this entire creation. And we know why, because there's no reason to it. We just do. We just know. And we're here. And we're doing our own acts of divine selfless service to the whole. Enjoy your beautiful multidimensional awareness space of we. Commune with that space, and commune with the people that are around you, and use every example of your life as an act of expression of what wants to come through as a catalyst for your new multidimensionally fully operational galactic consciousness. I love you so very much. If you feel inspired, you can always check out my Serapina Light page and see all my goodies and services or whatever, especially my courses that I provide. What's very right now very much in alignment is the Multidimensional Ascension course and the Tantrika Life Force Mastery, or the Soul Embodiment. These are very beautiful courses. And for those of you perhaps who are new to these concepts, you can take my, what's it called, the Cosmic Convergence course, which is a series of 5 videos. It's all these concepts of dimensions, times, things, divine laws of creation, everything. So thank you for all your support. You can also visit my Patreon support page if you want to be a part of my sponsorship team. Ugh, tongue-tied again, so much talking. But you know, I balance this talking because most of the time I'm just silence and I just commune. And so when I come here, I babble, right? Put it all out, put all my heart out. And then you can just visit my donation page if you're called. But anyway, I enjoy your feedback. It's becoming very important for us to share experiences so that we don't feel so isolated and alone. I think when I'm finished with the things I'm guided to do now, one day I really feel called to do some kind of a something where we could connect more and share experiences, because that would be great too. I don't yet know how, but it's very important for us to share so we know it's tangible. We're making it more and more real. Anyway, as always, so much love, wisdom, and power from our Sacred Heart Essence, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.
So recently someone also asked me about having difficulty with, being able to be within their truth, but not always trusting and knowing when others are in play. And that again relates to that self, inner bubble, the self-reality, who am I, what am I creating, and the expanded reality when you move out from our bubble. And the highest recommendation I could have at this point would just be to do that exercise and I teach all that in my Tantrika Life Force Mastery, because when you learn to master your life force, you fully know you, your signature, your choices, become a fully sovereign being. You no longer have difficulties with that. You don't suffer from that indifferentiality and that duality between me and them. It's just you. It's all you. Even if there's others, you would perceive it as choices that you yourself would not make. But it all has to come from you. And that's that non-dualistic viewpoint, and not just viewpoint, but the state of being that you are calling forth, integrating into your reality. So perhaps for those of you who feel called to do these exercises, you can do this feeling again when you ground your energy, really anchored, your beautiful light on every level of your expansion, which is then rooted down into the earth, so that you're one with earth, and your choices are one with the highest frequency of earth and unified field of all. And then also, don't be afraid to expand that field outward, to expand your aura, to expand your consciousness, because in recognition of yourself, you know your truth. You don't have to fear that you would no longer recognize yourself when others are not in resonance, or they're not a direct match, because in a way no one is. So when seeing everything from a unified perspective, and grounding your light, your own individualistic light, because we do have still intimate experience with Source, and you are allowed your intimate experience, and you have your intimate reality, but there's this calling for an expanded consciousness outwards as well, so that you know how to make this fusion, so that you no longer see the separateness in it. And that's the key for that. When you feel, when I'm with myself, I can be in this easy flow, but when I'm not, I can no longer be. You know, a lot of people who are empathic say, well, I'm an empath. When I feel their feelings, and then I no longer can. I used to feel that too, but now, you know, I know this person that every time someone has fear, I started to shake, and you can still feel that, but I no longer take it as, oh, it's coming from them and it's fear. I just see it as, you know, it just is a frequency of fear. It doesn't matter who it's coming from. I don't try to do that finger pointing. And feel how much, when you're ready, you can embrace more and more of that into your beyond separation consciousness. So you can practice with anyone, you know, especially with people who are not like you, and it can just be a random meeting, like meeting your neighbor for, I don't know, 5 minutes or 5 seconds. But you're practicing this in your conscious life. You do your exercises, your light mastery, your light body mastery, and then you take it out and integrate it into physical existence in your day-to-day reality of world. And that's how you master it, day by day, living moment for moment, and there you are. There you always have been. Enjoy. Take care.